What's going on, guys? So in today's video, I'm going to be showing the 5 best meta loadouts for BO6 Ranked Play Season 3. If you want to be frying and ranking up with ease, you definitely need to be using these loadouts. Don't forget to leave a like and drop a comment on what your favorite gun to use is this season. And without further ado, let's get into it. First off, let's go over the perks you're going to need to use this season. For perk 1, you're going to use Flak Jacket. This will help with like stuns and nades and whatnot, and you won't die instantly from them. For perk 2, you're going to need Fast Hands. It's going to help with reload time. Perk 3 is Double Time. This is going to help with Tac Sprint. It's very important to have this. And then for your wild card, you're actually going to be using the perk Greed card, so that way you can get a 4th perk, which is going to be Ninja, which is going to help you more quietly, and you know the enemy won't be able to hear you as easily. Now for the next thing, we're going to be over your tactical, lethal, and field upgrade. For tactical, I'd recommend using the flashbang. The concuss is also really good, but the flashbang, like, they literally can't see what's going on around them, so it makes it really hard for them to kill you. For lethal, I use frag grenade personally, but I know a lot of people prefer Semtax. The general rule and the general consensus is if you're using an SMG, use the Semtax. If you're using an AR, use the frag grenade. And then for field upgrade, you just better have trophy system equipped, or you're essentially just throwing. If you're not using trophy system, what are you doing? Now, moving on to our first gun. In fact, we're going to be using the AMS, and we're going to be looking at the AMS for a loadout. For the optic, it's pretty much personal preference. I mean, obviously don't put like a sniper scope on it, but like, it's really personal preference. I know some people use the Rose Mini, so some people use this reflex. I know a lot of people use the Kepler Microflex. In fact, a lot of pros use the Kepler Microflex, so generally you should probably choose the Kepler Microflex, but once again, it's personal preference. Then for the next thing we're going to be equipping is the Ported Compensator Muzzle. It's going to help with first shot accuracy and recoil control. And then for the barrel, you're going to be using the reinforced barrel. This is going to help with damage range and bullet velocity, so that's definitely important to have on this gun. Now for underbarrel, you have 2 options. If you struggle with recoil control and you like to play a little bit slower with your AR and like to play a little more like smarter and tactical, I definitely recommend the vertical foregrip. However, if you like to play a little more fast-paced and like to be a little more engaged in what's going on and like to be pushing in and slide canceling everything, definitely use the Ranger foregrip, as this will help with sprinting movement speed, but the vertical foregrip will help with more recoil control than the Ranger foregrip. So if you're missing a lot of shots while using the Ranger foregrip, definitely switch to vertical. But if you're finding yourself not moving fast enough, switch to the Ranger. But for the sake of the video, we're going to be using the vertical foregrip. Now, moving on to rear grip, you should be using the ergonomic grip for that dive to fire, slide to fire, and aim down sight speed. Now, moving on to the Jackal, there's not really a lot you can do with the Jackal, as it's been heavily nerfed this past season. But for the Jackal, we're just going to start with the barrel. You're going to do the gain and twist barrel for that bullet velocity. For the underbarrel, I recommend the Ranger foregrip for the sprinting movement speed. However, I know a lot of people are also been switching to the vertical foregrip, as previously discussed, for like the recoil control and stuff like that. So once again, if you find yourself missing a lot of shots with the Ranger foregrip, definitely switch to the vertical foregrip. However, most of the time you should be going with Ranger just because of the movement speed, and that's what an SMG is used for, so movement speed. For rear grip, once again, you're going to be going with the ergonomic grip. And then for the stock, I've seen a lot of people be switching between the Infiltrator stock and the Bounce stock. One thing is the Infiltrator stock has a little bit better strafe speed, so that's one thing you might want to take into consideration. However, recently I've been using the Bounce stock a lot, so that's what I'm going to be going with for the sake of the video. And for the last modification for this gun, you're going to be using the recoil springs. And then, yeah, this is the Jackal. It's pretty basic, but that's the class for this ranked play season. Now, moving on to our third gun, it is in fact going to be the C9. You know, with all the heavy nerfs to the Jackal, the C9's actually become really heavily into popularity for it has a lot better range than the Jackal this season, so I definitely would recommend using it, especially if you see that you're dying a lot at a distance with the Jackal, and you know you're not able to effectively get kills with the Jackal. But for the barrel, you're going to be using the long barrel. For the underbarrel, you're going to be using the Ranger foregrip for that, once again, that movement speed. For the rear grip, ergo grip as always. For the stock, you in fact are going to be using the Infiltrator stock. It's just what's meta currently. Lunchtime, as talked about in a video before, I definitely recommend go check that out. A lot of pros not a lot of pros use this because it's not in the CDL quite yet, but I definitely recommend use this, as I personally think it's a little bit better than the Jackal. But just, you know, test it out, see which one you like more. And then for the last modification of this gun, we're going to be going with the recoil springs to help with that horizontal recoil control and that vertical recoil control. Now, moving on to our fourth gun for today's video is the Compact 92. I wouldn't heavily recommend using this gun. It is the best SMG at close range, but it's only really good at close range. It really does not have any range at all. You also run out of ammo really fast, so it's high risk, high reward kind of gun. But without further ado, for the muzzle, you're going to be using the ported compensator. For the barrel, you're going to have to use a long barrel because damage range, you want to get as much as possible on this gun because without it, it's really terrible. For the underbarrel, you're going to be using the Ranger foregrip. Once again, sprinting movement speed and a little bit of recoil control. And then for the rear grip, you're going to be using the ergo grip as always. And then I know some people will go no stock on this. That's really just for psycho movement speed if you're doing that. Some people do balanced also for a little, obviously a balanced thing that's better than stock. However, I'm going to personally recommend you, in fact, use the recoil springs. The recoil is terrible on this gun, so really, as long as you get as much recoil control as possible when you're up in their face, I think it's most important. So once again, use this SMG at very close range, but I would not recommend using this over the Jackal or the C9 that often. It's just really for some maps, this gun can be really good in beam, so I'd recommend using it on maps like that. For example, maybe like Vault. Vault's a little more close range except for P2, but generally it's a little bit more close range fights. And then for the last gun in today's video, we're just going to be going over the pistol. Right now, just use the stock pistol, really. The quick draw grip is the only grip you can get, so I recommend using that. Fast mag too, obviously. However, you might want to change up your scope a little bit. Maybe the Merlin Mini you might like. I've also seen a lot of people go no scope, which is interesting, but I think no scope works really well when you're fighting close range duels. However, the scope is a little effective from those mid range duels that you might be taking occasionally with a pistol if you're out of ammo. So it's really just personal preference. Definitely recommend switching up a bit, seeing which one works for you. As of now, though, I've been recently running it with the Kevlar Microflex. It's just what I recommend. It's also what a lot of other people do use when they're not using it without a scope.